Alright, hello everybody. Let's continue over the board game reviews. My game from the Finnish league that's just started for the next, end of this year, beginning of the next one. My team plays in the first division, so it's the second tier. There's two tiers up below that. We didn't really start too well though. My team is the Kims. We lost both our games. So we have to really shape up to keep our place. We actually got promoted from the second division to the first division this season, so. But hopefully we could hold on to here. This is where we traditionally have been like holding on the first division. Some excursions to the highest at some point, but those were very short-lived. So I was second board on the first game, playing WFM 2108 FIDE. And I had white pieces. I've been very lucky in the league with colors. Got mainly whites in a long row. So I went c4 because, I saw one game where they had played c6. So I kind of wanted to go for the Slav, but got rudely surprised by e5. So reverse Sicilian, out of book, or out of prep at least, move 1. Oh shoot. Well, knight c3. I've played this on both colors a lot of times, so it's not the end of the world, of course. And then bishop b4. Knight f6 is probably the more popular, but this is like a reverse Rossolimo, with the difference that in this one, now white can jump here, at least more easily. For instance, in the reverse version, e4, c5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, the real Rossolimo. Now if you do this, even though it probably is like a line white can take here, and this is not that great for black. Whereas in this version, black's playing the white side of the Rossolimo, then both down, so the knight is not there yet. They could be there though, if he starts with the knight f6. But then again, white has a move to make here. Like we could play knight f3, hit the pawn, and tempo is a tempo. It's a different game. So here. Well, I knew this is a move, but I mean, usually something like this happens, and then you continue with knight f3 or e3, trying to go for d4 on a lot of games. But I know this is also a move, so I didn't really care. If you take, you take. And they did. And again, big decision. I could take either way. Both are fine. Somehow this looks more natural to me. Takes towards the center. Opens the b file. We already have the bishop hole here, so we can look at there. Of course, the other way also has its benefits. It opens up the bishop instantly, and maybe also the queen has some look, more range towards the center here. Anyhow, matter of taste, I suppose. They played d6, and then I put the bishop to g2, and then they played knight e7, which I don't know. I felt like it's a weird move during the game, but I guess it makes sense. It just comes to support this knight, so can stick it here. And well, I don't know, probably I should have done the rook b1 at some point here. Just so, makes more sense. And then this comes here. I don't know. Maybe he can even... Is the bishop ever gonna really want to Bianchetto there? That I don't really know. At least the knight would support that option. Maybe, like that's the point. Anyway, since I didn't do this and put pressure on this guy, black has time to play c5 first. Which I assume is good, because it opens the bishop up, or the queen up here, and, well, more control here, and this is not really a backwards pawn. Well, not open here. Of course it does make a big hole here. There's no more pawns here to kick the anybody who would happen to come here away. And they, well, so d3, c5, yeah. And now if I go here, they have this coming here. Now the bishop queen is at least open up. So I don't know. Probably rook b1 earlier would have been the better move. Or instead of d3. Who knows? Who knows? So small differences. I played, after c5, I played f4 with the idea that I have a bishop pair, hurdy-durdy-dur. Let's try to open things up a little bit for the bishops. It's like always f4 pawn. If you push it, well, usually you'll regret that later on. Well, this your king gets a lot weaker. They played knight bc6, defends the e5. I could take, assume they take with the pawn, get kind of like a Maroxy bind going on, with the benefit that you have traded that dark squared bishop, which often is like a little unhappy with the pawns being here and there. Usually it's the white side and the bishop is like stuck behind the pawns. But same applies to this. We're playing the Sicilian with the colors reversed. Alright, so, well, I didn't take. I've developed the knight here. And they played f6. Never play f6. But they did. And I think it's fine. Also, it kind of plays really hardly against this bishop, because it starts to... Well, here, there's no future here. Just a wall of pawns. And now, well, the castle. And then I decided that my plan is gonna be, instead of any kind of central break, is to go and stick the knight to d5, which is the hole they created by pushing both pawns forward. Well, downside of course is that, well, they played this here first. Doesn't really matter probably. But they can kind of cover this quite well. And well, once I set on my tracks on a plan, that's where we go. The good side is that it's not that like it is pretty slow position. Not really closed, but quite closed anyways. So you have time to do like a 4-move maneuvers. Of course, in the hindsight, or meanwhile, my opponent has like a lot of moves to build up their play and develop their game fully. And I haven't really even touched this guy. Well, mostly because where I'm gonna stick it, probably bishop d2 is the best square. At least my rooks would be connected, but I kind of hope that it would not matter. But here, well, like I said, train tracks. I should have here probably held on a little moment, thought about life and the fact that we want to keep this guy alive, and maybe play rook f2. Just so if this comes here, the rook's not pinned to the bishop and we can stick it here or there or whatever. I don't know if we want to stick it here. Guess it's fine. But it would probably be a little bit on the way there. But I think rook f2 was better. Because after I stick this here, I lose my bishop. I like my bishop. Why would you want to lose it? So here, yeah, I had some regrets in this game, like not playing rook b1, not playing rook f2. Play some small rook moves. They're always good, right? Of course they can't take with the knight here because of the fork. And well, bishop takes, then, well, you lose the light squared bishop. So those are not that great, but this of course is good. Get rid of that guy who's kind of keeping this king side here together, especially since somebody has been an idiot and played f4. Well, finally, rook b1, just like 10 moves too late. They took. I have to take back. Of course, I could take there at some point in between, but I didn't really think that's any way beneficial to me. I wanted to maybe a pawn there. Not that it would do much either good to me though. But now that the light squared bishops have been traded off, I could start like many points I was thinking of playing e4. Somehow like a support. But I didn't want to close the bishop down. But now that I let them trade it off, this would probably start to look a lot better. I don't know, like for instance, they played knight a5. But I didn't fancy it for the reason that f5 started to look a little like my king is weak or quite open. If they somehow explode the center, I could be in some trouble somewhere. Especially like if this takes here or I don't know how it goes. I'm not sure how it would actually work, like this would open up and this would somehow open up. Just gonna try to make a case for queen covering the rook and the g4, but it's not so easy. So it's not obvious that it's gonna kill me, but I did not fancy this kind of opportunities for my opponent. So I kept the pawn at bay here. And also I came here, at least I thought this was a nice idea. How to keep the center closed, which I thought is in my favor. By playing f5. With obvious idea that it's not really hanging because of this cute little tactic here. And then I want to play e4, and then there is no f5, and then we'll continue with the pop. I don't know, checkmate. No, easier said than done, but that's the basic plan of my master plan here. Well, here they probably played an unnecessary move. They should have gone with their plan. They played rook e8, which doesn't really do anything. I mean, does enable the possibility of taking there. But I was gonna play e4 anyways. I don't know, maybe they didn't know it, but I felt like that was obvious continuation here. Instead, they should have like maybe taken and gone with the same as the game, c4. So we'll see. But this would have been much stronger this way without wasting a tempo with the rook. So in a game, they played here, I played e4, then they took, I took. But now I've solidified my center here. They played, of course, the pretty principled move, c4, which I thought was great. Don't let me, well, I'm not sure I would have played c4 to stop that if I was given an opportunity. Like, let's say they play something nonsensical. Would I play c4? I don't know, maybe. b5. Maybe could hit this guy first. And then, I don't know, let the black take there. It still seems a little soft there. But this all would have actually come much harder if I didn't have e4 played and they played c4 without this wasted tempo there. Thought this still is good move. And it is. And the points is like I'll take and well, I could take, but I mean they could take there. They could also just let the pawn be there and just like transfer the knight to ce4. Which would also be pretty much the case if I had tried to sidestep the pawn. With also the extra benefits of me having a backwards pawn here and rook already there, and then I was thinking like b6 and then stick the knight there, or I don't know, maybe b5, so you don't hang this pawn while you bring the knight there. I guess that's downside of b5 is that at least then this would be hanging. Yeah. After all, I mean like a knight there. So don't really look like I should help them their game and bring the knight there by taking or sidestep this. So I decided, nah, let's ignore it and go with the plan. g4. They take here. I could take, but I'll like they can't really defend the pawn. So, and also I was happy that I was covering this for a move more. So there's no queens coming to bother me around there and there. So ignore the pawn, push forward. g5. Hopefully threatening to do stuff, takes, and the bishop comes here and bang, 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 bang. That's my plan. Get some play there. Oh, they come here. Threaten to take my c-pawn, sorry. So here I lost my nerves and took. Think taking was actually better. Just should have gambited the game, the pawn, I think. Or maybe here, let him take here and then just take here and go for the attack instead. Rook g1, king h8. Oh, also, yeah, there was this one. It's not winning anything, but like annoying. Maybe here. And now the rook's here, so it's not playing with this guy here. So there's no rook takes back. Yeah. Looks promising there. Well, I lost my nerve. I want my pawn back. I'm a pawn grabber by heart anyways. And then they came here. During the game I really didn't like this line though. Coming here at maybe here. Like looking at everything. I was just looking at something like rook b4. This is what I was looking at during the game. Bang, 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 bang. Queen just survives here and I'm not sure I like this. Also my opponent saw this and didn't like it either. Can't really trap the queen because it gets somewhere there or well, either way I go. Of course this is, I don't know if I would have found the better line here. Best is just to like say, nah, think take or instantly go king h1 and just go for attack instead. That's a flank pawn. Who needs flank pawns? Just ignore it. And if queen comes for this pawn instead, you can ignore that one too and just go for there. And tension says this is great. Or you can I think even this is fine. And then go king h1. Get the queen kind of like sidelined here. Also great. And then stick this guy here and this guy here and I don't know, queen goes somewhere and keep on attacking. Or I don't know, maybe at some point we could even think about some sacks on h6 if he tries to keep it closed. Anyways, none of that happened, but I was kind of worried about that. Not sure how much time I've left it here. Probably decent amount still. They played rook here instead. Could have also put the knight here, but that's the downside. It's a nice knight, but it's also kind of on the way. Any kind of attacks, blocks the c file. What happened in the game is kind of same. Rook came there. Rook comes to b4. And then they played b5 to solidify this square. I took, knight took. And then the knight is, and also the b pawn is now on the way. But also the knight is on the way. And it's not really like going anywhere. So I felt like my bishop is dominating the knight instead of the knight dominating my bishop. And it's on the way there. I think maybe like instead rook c8 maybe. But of course that also has the downside. If you take the rook way around, then your rook's not longer defending on this side. So I don't know. Again, rook king h1 or takes, or and one less defender here that could swing to g file. Not easy to say which way they should go. Yeah, I guess the rook queen is also a possibility. Queen comes in. Yeah, so yeah, makes sense. They played b5, supports the center, or the c5, c4. I took. They took. And then, well, I took here. I guess we could have stick the king to h1 first. Well, I took, and went bishop h6. Take away this square. Not that these are ever really threats yet, because the queen is covering it. Anyways, they did put the king into the corner. Free the square for the rook. And well, I was here considering, do I do this or bring here? I decided that I'll do it this way, yeah. It also looks sometimes at c3. Not that I don't know if that mattered at all. It does kind of block the queen in a way. And then played i5, which I think is a mistake. They should probably just like trade the rooks. And here I was gonna take with the h-pawn, because at least then I have this plan, yeah. So I don't know, they probably should not take, I don't know, queen here. Queen here, question mark. This bishop is still keeping the knight away from any. I'm not sure it would actually be any use to jump anywhere anyways. Probably very even. I didn't really believe I was better here. But they played a5, and then I had some like started to have hopes here. Because this makes the knight a little less stable. Because now suddenly a4 is a threat. Trying to take there. And if he takes, he loses the knight. I had to be kind of careful with that. As long as there was this fork, I didn't think I could do it instantly. But I guess I could, like, this is always a possibility. Which I did see it at some point. But, yeah. Here I thought like it's better if I do this first. And well, I thought this is forced. Chop, chop. And then I can go a4. And if he tries this kind of stuff, well, I could also take there, but also have the check here. And then takes there. Of course, this looks dangerous, but I think mine is also kind of problematic, is that the queen is stuck guarding the mate check, or the mate square here. And I can maybe use the pawn to distract the queen. Or maybe we could also think about that one. Like he can, at the moment the queen can kind of cover both, but maybe you can also add a third aspect to that and try to go to d8. Of course he could also maybe bring the knight here to cover the pawn running, so that's still probably okay. But yeah, also this is also a bad move because that also just won instantly. Or, well, not instantly, but was a winning endgame. Not so obvious that it is, but the knight comes there and the pawn looks dangerous and my bishop can't even come here. But it just is winning. King f2. If they run the pawn, bishop comes there. And then if he pushes the pawn, we can always take it because now the knight can't get it back. It's too slow and clumsy. Can't come there. And this is not gonna get it in any way under the pawn. It's just gonna run. And then we can bring the king here, or even maybe think about taking the pawn. Yeah, well, if we can't push there, I think their best is try to run the king there to meet us, and knight has to probably go backwards there and then c4 and maybe bishop here. Well, it's a winning endgame. Not so obvious, and especially with not too much time to actually figure out is that winning or not, because the pawn also you can like start to see things with the a pawn, and the bishop is kind of dominated by the knight there, and I have no ways to go on this side either. Anyhow, that did not happen because my opponent probably believed in a4 and it's winning after rook g8, which is not so bad because of the this. And well, king can get away from there, and if I take, he can take here, and this would have been still fine for black, for instance. But they came up with a pretty great plan, which actually holds a draw. a4, just ignoring my threat, which I thought during the game that, oh, that's crazy. Did they miss this? Well, obviously I give a check, with the idea that if he goes there, I'll take there and free pawn and rook and the bishop there, and looks horrible. So this is their idea. Chop, chop, chop. Rook and knight for a queen. But surprisingly, this is a freaking fortress. I have no way in. I can check here, even bring the, well, okay, now this is a threat, so, but like this is not getting anywhere. Queen can't penetrate. Oh, sorry, I planted the rook there. So here, instead, king has to go this side. Sorry. Yeah. And then the rook comes here. And rook comes here. It holds everything here. This is like the 7th rank is the key. Sorry. Yeah. So, well, now the queen is kind of stuck here, but I'll show why I mean the 7th rank is the key. It can't penetrate from that side alone. The rook just goes here. I can push the pawn there. There's a lot of ideas. Well, I'll show what happened in a game. I went for the pawn here. The rook comes here. And now the problem is that if I try to go here, the rook comes e7. Knight is covering this square. Pawn is covering this square. Nobody's covering that square, but we can't go anywhere from there because the knight is covering this and that, and the pawn is covering this. Rook's covering these entry squares. So there's no way to break through the queen side, like the pawn push does nothing. So only way to think about it is like somehow banging through the g file. But the king just stays somewhere. Again, I can go running around here, but the king goes there. And the rook comes here. It just stays on the freaking 7th rank. King can do some moves that don't spoil anything, and then it's fine. Or I can bring this pawn all the way there. They can just move the rook, for instance, between these squares. Now that I'm threatening to infiltrate, king goes here. And eventually, if I try to sneak somewhere here, rook comes to f7, and there's no way in. Comes to cover the only square there. And again, the same things. There's nothing on the king side. And the king running there didn't help either. And like, queen can't sneak through anywhere. I can't get my king anywhere to sneak through anywhere. The knight is covering everything. It's just a complete fortress. So I went here, threatened the pawn. Of course, I had like 2 minutes, maybe a little more, but like minutes on the clock. I did not believe during the game that this is a fortress, but it started to look like so. I don't see how to break through. So my idea was to king comes here, take some knight jumps away. Doesn't really do anything. And now, if my opponent played rook b7, it would be impossible to break through. But they were a little careless. They moved the king g7. And then suddenly, bang, I get in with check. They jump the king here, and then I go here. And suddenly queen is in. White is winning. Well, they come with the only counterplay that makes sense. They have the nice knight there. Rook comes here. Bothers me a lot. I don't know. Maybe I could have done this here, but then but then this knight can't really go there. This I didn't really think during the game, but yeah, maybe we should come here to stop the rook entry. Guess he could do the same as he did in the game, kind of. Rook g4, go for the pawn this way. Yeah, probably. Well, I thought this is like a supernatural plan, and that is, we fork the pawn, queen to f pawn. So they checked me, and here I did not have enough time to. Well, for a long time I thought this wins, but somehow I talked myself out of playing this. Like here, I'll take king here. I was looking at this stuff here, but this does not win because suddenly the knight jumps there. If I go, well, obviously if I go to the 2nd rank, we lose the queen. If I go there, I lose the queen. If I go back, well, check. And if I go there, I get checkmated. So I'm nothing better than freaking perpetual. Horrible. So h4 trading mate does not work. So the winning plan here is queen f7. If king comes here, he's gonna get mated pretty fast. Bing, bang, bong. No good. And if he goes backwards, then h4. And now this blocks the checks, and this is no check square. And we are trying to mate them now. Bang. This is the winning plan, which I missed. I saw h4. Also, I started to look at like this. If I go here, here, here. What if they take this instead? I don't have h-pawn. But it's also winning though, but takes a while though. Oh, here again we end up in the mating it this way, which I did not see during the game. If it goes backwards, keeping this square. Check. Check. F6. And now this is too late because, well, we also can win the rook now. But also probably just played F7 too. And this is no longer an interesting check or check here because the rook's here, not on the second rank. So King F3 was winning, which I kind of saw, but then I somehow saw some lines that I talked myself out of it. And then look at King E1. There's no checks. If they check here, I'll go here and get the tempo on the rook, and it's all good. The rook's no longer on the second rank to bother me. But here, white has nice draw, knight e3. If I now take the pawn, king h5, and now it actually comes pretty dangerous because this follow-up actually loses because black's gonna come here and there. Threatens mate, bing bang. I give a check, he goes there, and gives another way of mating me. If I tried this to give a check here, it just goes there and blocks the checks, and I'm done. Horrible. So I'm kind of curious if this would have happened, if would I have actually lost the game. There's some draws like this, but the problem here is that now check. Check. If I go here, I lose. Bang. And there's a fork square. Not good. And if I don't, then it's just a perpetual. If I go here, check, protects the rook. I thought like I can walk away from there. And of course the queen doesn't have to go to e6. It can go to a different square. Well, again, like the problem is that if I don't go for this, then this comes a problem. So again, if I play, for instance, here, this, and a3. Now if I give a check, I didn't even look at this line. Check, check. If I go there, it's mate, and if not, then it's just a perpetual now. Horrible. Yeah, this is very frustrating. Well, luckily for me, my opponent did not play knight e3. Also, I think low on time. They played rook g4, but then queen takes, king goes there, queen check. And now there is no worries with the rook, not on the second rank. They can take there with check at some point, which doesn't really help. Here I was like, for a second I thought here I'm winning if I take here, which of course would be a horrible blunder because then I actually can go and catch that pawn via this one. Took me a second to see this, so it would have been a horrible 40th move to actually blunder the game with this. But I did quite quickly see that, oh, well, no longer problems here. We're also covering this square, so we can play f6. Sack the queen. And now this guy, this knight can't catch. So we'll win. They played knight here. Again, if I take and go there, they stop it. But I played f7 with the idea that if they take my queen, I just promote another one and I should be winning queen versus knight pretty handily. Especially with extra pawns, we can just take there and make more. So that was win, but I wasn't super happy about that game. win, but I had to be a really lucky turn. Anyways, horrible. First game I won, my team lost 1-4, I think. So it was not the best day. And I was not really happy with my game. Anyways, I'll show the next round 2 in the next video. Until then, ciao.